Greetings, everyone, and welcome back. We're going to do a demo here for project number 3. I think this is a good time to do this to start getting into some of the tools and skills that you'll need as we progress along. So this is a demo for project 3, and this is where we're going to do some keyframe transformations. So let's start with a new project, new composition. And this assignment calls for 680 width by 480 height in pixels, of course. We're going to do a frame rate of 30 frames per second, and we're going to do a 2-second loop. Okay, so 640 by 480, 30 frames per second, 2 seconds duration. Click OK. And so what we're doing in this one is we're creating our objects that are going to move around or transform in some way on our screen. And we accomplish that by creating what are called solid layers. So on this assignment, I believe it says to use a minimum of 4 layers. And let's just take a look at that just to verify. So if I go into assignment number 3, okay, at least 3 solid layers. Okay, so I'm going to do maybe 4 or 5 here. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump right in here. To do this, we're going to create what are called solid layers. Okay, so you can go up to the Layer tab on the top, choose New under Layer, and choose Solid, or Control Y is your shortcut. So we'll start with a solid layer. And since I already have this color up, this yellow, I'm going to call this Lightning 1. So you'll understand here. I already know what I'm going to make. So that'll be Lightning 1. And I can also take this same track and duplicate it if I want. So if I click on the layer, all I have to do is hit Control plus D to duplicate, the duplicate shortcut. And then I can right click on this layer that I duplicated, choose rename. I can call this Lightning 2, let's say. Okay. All right. So just follow me here and you'll see where I'm going with this. Let's go ahead and create another layer. Again, Control Y is your shortcut. And we're going to call this one Blue Sky. And while we're at it, we better change the color to blue, right? Click OK. Okay, there's our blue sky layer. And we're going to go ahead and do 2 more here. So I'm going to go Control Y. Call this one Cloud 1. So again, I want to make it a color that might be a cloud in the sky. All right. And then we'll do, well, let's do one more. We'll do a separate layer. Control Y, excuse me. And again, instead of this color, let's go down and make this one a little darker maybe. And we'll call this one Cloud 2. Okay. Click OK. All right, so we've got Cloud 1, Cloud 2, Blue Sky, Lightning 1, and Lightning 2. So let's put the blue sky here down on the bottom. So we're just dragging our layer down to the very bottom. And let's put the lightning layers on top. We'll start with those. So Lightning 1, let's say I'm just going to create a shape that looks like a cartoon version of lightning, let's say. So I think the best way to go about this would be to start here with the top layer here. Let's go ahead and let's see. Let's look at our pen tool here. And what we're going to do is we're going to draw a little shape out of this, a lightning bolt, let's say. And notice here I went from this composition to this layer lighting. I just double clicked on it and it took me to this editing layer. So notice there your composition, that's your That's your timeline and your layout that you're going to use. But when you want to edit a layer, you double click on it and go into that layer. And now what I can do is go here, go there maybe. Actually, let's do it the other way. Let's go down here with it. There we go. Go here, here, here. Okay, and I'm just creating a little like lightning bolt, you know, something we might see in a cartoon in this case. And there you can see I created a nice lightning bolt. Okay, and so on the second one, let's go up here. We'll create another one up here. So let's take this one and move this one to the top. And then once we go to composition, you'll see that one's on the top layer now. So we double click on this one, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make another lightning bolt. This time maybe we'll make it a little narrower, slightly different angle. Just something that looks a little different than the other one, so we have a little variation. Okay. All right, so now we have the two together. And so if we go back to the composition layer, or I mean the composition, you'll see there they are. And so now we can click on these two and we can make some adjustments with these. With this one's a little bit too wide, so I'm going to go ahead and open up the layer here. Let's see if I can, let's go back here, open up the layer, and let's go to transform, and we'll look at scale maybe. Let's see if we can scale some of this down, move some of these a little bit. There's a lot of areas that are thicker than others. Let's do that, something like that. That looks pretty good right there. Maybe bring this one up. Oops, that's too much, right? Control Z will undo it. But bring it up a little bit like that. And let's see, what else can we do with it? Oops, wrong one. Let's go back to the position layer here. Once you're on the position layer under transform, then you can move it around, which is kind of nice. And I can also resize it here this way too. Something like that looks good. Okay, and so now let's go over to Lightning 2, and we can do the same thing. If we go to transform underneath the layer, go to the scale position, we can start playing around with the scaling of this one too. You can also grab these fine points and skew them too, which is nice. Okay, so let's skew that one out a little bit. Maybe make it a little bit larger, but maybe not quite so wide as the other one. And what else? We could also rotate it a little bit. You know, you can always rotate it if you want to show it at a different angle. Maybe have it come in another way. Go to position here, and now I can move it. One of those cloud layers got off there. So that's good. Those are good bolts right there. We could even have them crossing each other too. Let's go ahead and rotate this one a little bit more. And you know, something like that. And we can widen that one out. And then we'll go to position here. We can have that one come down right about here. Maybe skew this out a little bit more, just to fill up the space a little bit. Bring that in maybe, and then have this one kind of overlap it. So let's go to the other lightning layer, go to position again and move that around. And let's rotate it some more. That looks good. And then we'll bring it up, go to position. Okay, bring this over a little bit, just to have them overlap just a little bit. Okay, that looks good right there. Okay, so those are my positions for my lightning. Also, I can bring up or down the opacity. right from the very beginning, right? So you can bring that down a little bit if you want. Or we could leave that one up a little higher, then bring the back one down behind it. So let's do that. Let's bring this one down just a little bit so you can kind of see through it. Yeah. And here you can click the stopwatch and that'll keyframe it there. You can see on the timeline it's keyframing that opacity level. So that's good. Same thing, click the stopwatch in each layer. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do now is work on the clouds, okay? So I'm going to close these out, and what we're going to do is just turn the eyeball off on the lightning and just go right to the cloud layer. And again, on this layer, we're going to double click on it so we open up a editing layer, and we're going to use our pen tool to create a cloud shape. So I'm just grabbing the pen tool on the top here, and I'm just going to go around and do a quick shape, something that might look like a cloud going through the sky. Yeah, something like that. That looks good. Okay, and now I'll need to go and edit these, of course. So what I can do is go up where the pen tool is and change it to the Convert Vertex tool, the little V there. So if you grab this, watch what happens now. I can create more Bezier style curves and make it a little more organically shaped, you know, rounder around the edges. Like that. Just round them out a little bit and then I can move them around again in just a second. Okay. When you grab these handles, and notice there you can kind of move them around and tweak the shape a little bit. Something like that. And then here I can go back here. Watch this. I grab the pen tool again and then just move them. Move the shapes into something that I want to see. Okay, so go around again. You can go ahead and grab the Convert Vertex tool, create these handles, and just kind of do a more rounded Bezier style on the shape. Try to get away from that more angular look. It can be a challenge to work with these, so you just gotta practice and move them around, spread them out a little bit sometimes when things are too angular. Again, if we go to position, we can move this thing around. Oops, maybe not in the edit window. Let's go over here. There we go. And then back to our editing window. Let's see here. Go out here and move these too. So again, the idea here is just to get rid of those unnatural looking angles and make it a little more rounded, smooth. Oops, wrong way. There we go. All right, and maybe one right here. That looks good. And maybe one there, that looks good too. Okay, so there we go. Perfect. Okay, so now we've done that. Now what we can do is also we can paint on this too a little bit. There's a brush tool up here. And over here, you should see your brushes come up here. Sometimes they load, sometimes they don't. Right now, I'm having trouble loading them. They seem to not want to cooperate when I'm making a video. But let's try going back to this layer here, and then double back on our. There we go. Now they're starting to work. So sometimes you just gotta kind of reset them. For some reason, it's not letting me choose new brushes, so that's frustrating. But at least I've got a little color here I can work with. You should be able to select the brushes over here. Your colors will be here in Paint. You choose your foreground right here. Let's go a little darker than this next one, this next run. And then you should be able to select your brush right there. I'm not sure why. Let me double click on it. Maybe that'll reset it. So I'm not really sure why that's not cooperating, but I'm just going to go ahead and use this for now. That looks pretty good. Maybe, maybe. Yeah, it's frustrating. There, so once I select it off of it and then back on, now I can select a brush. That's really frustrating. This is why I hate the subscription version of Adobe. Ever since they've switched to a subscription, oh, something always goes wrong when I'm in here. It's very frustrating. Okay, now I can go back to brushes, grab a smaller one maybe one down. No, that's too small. Photoshop's a lot easier to do this because you have more tools and more features, and that's probably good right there. Put a few darker spots in there. Just try to create something that might be reminiscent of a cloud in the sky. Okay, and then let's do maybe one more there. Actually, let's try not to go outside of the... Let's go ahead and grab... Let's go to paint again. Again, we'll do some lighter, one more lighter in the middle, maybe. About there. That looks good. Okay, so that'll be our first cloud. Now, what another thing that's cool that we can do is underneath the layer, in the mask that we created, we can also open that up, and we can feather the edge here. Let's do the mask feather. So let's try taking it one direction or the other. Can't go negative on the feathering there, but we can go up positive, and look what happens. Crazy, right? That's way too much, but you can mask the edges here, just maybe just slightly, to create a softer effect, right? So that looks pretty good right there. Let's try that. And then if we go back here to our composition, notice there now, if I turn off the path, you can see there's an artifact there. So let's see if we can work on that. Let's turn this back on for a second. And let's turn down the feathering a little bit, or turn it up, either way. That's kind of interesting. Let's see what that looks like. That's really extreme. So let's see how that looks. Let's go back to our composition. Layer cloud 2. That's pretty abstract there. And let's turn off this one. You can see there, wow, that's pretty extreme. So we're going to fix that. Bring this down. That was a little too much, right? So we just want to kind of soften the edges, maybe just a little bit. And let's go also bring down the opacity a little bit. That might help too. So that looks pretty good right there. So we'll leave that. And let's go on to the other cloud and shape. Let's turn this eyeball off on that one. Double click there, and again we're going to do the same thing. We're going to grab the pen tool, and we're just going to make another cloud shape, or something that might resemble a cloud shape. Okay, and then again we can adjust these as well by going up here and grabbing the convert vertex tool. And again, just kind of soften out these edges. Again, just clicking and dragging outwardly one way or the other will help create a more of a curvature and less of an angle. So if you're going for a more organic shape. Okay, let's grab these. We'll move those out here. Again, just click once on the handle there, and then let's see if we can move. I guess we can't move that in the editing window. That's frustrating. Should be able to. Maybe the hand tool. There we go. Well, that moves the whole thing, though. Well, let's just move it for a second here, and then we'll grab the vertex tool here just to manipulate these a little bit more. That's looking pretty good. I think I can live with that. Okay, so next step, again, is to take a look at it, of course, here. And let's go ahead and color that in. Let's grab our brush. And again, I think we need to do this on the editing layer. Yeah. Add some lighter value in there. And let's go for a smaller brush now. And then we'll go to paint and go to get a darker value in there around the edges. You know, something like that. Just create a little bit of a shading difference, you know, in there throughout. And let's go back into some lighter values here. Oops, cancel that. And let's do a smaller brush this time, just one smaller. Just kind of gives the clouds some depth. Okay, something like that. Perfect. Okay, so again, I would probably recommend maybe even feathering out the mask here a little bit. Click open your mask controls here. Mask feather again. Just drag that one way or the other. That looks pretty good. Let's bring the opacity down. That looks pretty good right there. And we'll go ahead and keyframe those while we're at it. Okay. All right, so looking at that, we've got that cloud. Of course, we can turn off the handles there, the path. And then we've got this cloud here. So we've got two different cloud shades, which is good. Let's see, we can even go back to this one here, and let's bring up the opacity a little bit on that one. Perfect. Okay. And now let's go ahead. We've got the lightning also. So now we can start our keyframing. Okay. So first thing I'm going to do is have the clouds come in. Let's do that first. So I'm going to grab, let's start with cloud 2 here. Position 2. Let's have cloud 2. Oops, I need to grab my selection tool there. I'll just have this thing come in, maybe kind of go down and out, something like that. So we'll start these off on off screen, let's say. So this other cloud one, I'm going to turn the eyeball off so I'm not confused. Okay, and then here, we're going to just keyframe the position by clicking the stopwatch. Notice there the keyframe. Drag your scrub key across, and we'll say since we have a 2-second here, let's say the cloud will be in about 15 seconds in, or maybe 20 seconds in, something like that. And then what you do is you just drag your position keyframe. One's horizontal and one's vertical, but in this case we're doing the horizontal. We'll have this come down, maybe even drop down a little bit too while we're at it. That looks pretty good, and then over a little bit more. We'll keep it kind of going across the top. That looks good. Okay, and so then it'll come in, stop there, kind of just slowly move across to the end, let's say about right here. Okay, so by the time it gets here to almost to 2 seconds, it'll be going off screen. In fact, let's just have it go off screen. Just like that, okay? So shift home is your shortcut to go back home. Hit the space bar, and there's our cloud going through. Okay? All right, so next, let's turn on the preview controls here. Oh, it's not showing up there. Well, shift home. And let's do the other cloud. Okay, so we're going to turn that one, the eyeball off on that one. Turn this one on. And we'll start this one on the other side. Okay, so we're going to go with this one. We're going to start over here. Maybe we'll just have it kind of float in right there. Okay, so position, keyframe it. Move your scrub key along here. This one maybe it'll take a little bit longer. Oops, I always do the wrong one. Control Z. This one will float in maybe about right here. And this one maybe it'll go off closer to the end, something like that, and then have this one kind of go out. Like that. Okay, so let's turn on the two clouds and see what we've got. Okay, they move pretty fast there, don't they? So what we could do, if you want to copy and paste a keyframe later along the timeline to get something to stay still, just click on the keyframe that you want to copy, choose Control C, and then just move your scrub key, but don't click off of this. Keep it selected. Keep that keyframe selected, and then just choose Control V, and you can paste it along the timeline there. So watch, see that cloud kind of stuck around there for a second. And you can move this and have it stay longer too. Okay. So that's kind of neat. And here you could even make adjustments on this one too. You may want this thing to move a little bit more. So what I might do is take this last keyframe and delete that. And just watch what it does here. And it just kind of sits still there. But what I want to do is have it keep moving. So maybe along about right here. We'll have this thing move. Oops, Control Z will undo that. We'll just have it move slightly. Control Z. Let's just have it move slightly this way, so it doesn't stop moving. And then by the time it gets to here, it'll be off the screen. Okay. Let's see if that little pause kind of helps things. Yeah, I like that. So you can just have it keep moving, but have it pause. So let's do the same thing with the other cloud layer here. All right, so I need to do this one right here. Yeah, so okay, let's open this up. Again, looking at this, it comes in right there. Delete this last one. And let's go ahead and just make this thing move slowly, maybe to about there. Our position frame, and that's going to go forward. No, wrong. Which way is that going? Yeah, that one's going that direction. That's the way I want to go with it. And again, by the time it gets close, just about to the end, this thing's off stage. Okay, so let's take a look at that. That looks good right there. Okay, so you can manipulate the movement of the objects. Now let's do the lightning. Okay, let's turn on this one here. We'll have this one come in first. Now this one I'm going to transform the opacity. Okay, so on this one we're just simply going to go opacity is at 0 in the beginning. And then maybe to about right there. So again, if I want to keep that opacity at 0, again, I can just take this first keyframe, make sure it's selected, Control C, and then Control V. And there it is. It's just paste it right on where your scrub key is. So here you can see it stays at 0 there, and then it's going to come in from here to here. We're going to see a flash. Okay, so let's go up here to 77. That'll be pretty quick, I think. And then from here to here, about to 0. Back to 0 again. Okay, so it'll look something like this. Okay, good. All right, so now let's go to the other one. We'll do the same thing. We'll create a opacity change, right? So let's go to transform. And again, make sure your scrub key's back to 0. Let's go opacity down to 0 at the beginning. And notice it's keyframes it for us. And as we move along here, there's one. And there's that one's fading out. The other one will come in, let's say. This one will come up to maybe just a little bit more. Right there, maybe, as far as opacity goes. And then as that one fades out, then this one will fade out to 0. Okay, so that should do it. Let's take a look here. Shift home. So there you can see my clouds and my lightning. The lightning there in the beginning kind of stays a little too long. So I got to fix that one, I think. Yeah, this one is, something's up. Let's turn it back on so I can see what's going on here. So it just takes a really long time to fade in. So maybe have it fade in a little bit faster. There we go. That looks better. Okay. Let's just have it come in and go out a little faster too. Let's try that. Yeah, I like that. That looks good there. So that's basically what we're doing is we're taking solid layers, we're making shapes out of them, and then we're applying some transformations to them. As the timeline moves on, you'll see the changes that they make, whether they're position changes, opacity changes, rotational changes. You decide what you want to do and how you want your objects to move.